someone rejects the fact that the New Testament is comprising of 27 books, does that have any theological implications for that Christian?
Yeah, but not in a sense that would affect their salvation.
Okay, say for example.
So like Luther,
yes,
for example, disputed the letter of James.
Okay.
That would not affect his salvation. It means that I believe he was wrong.
Yes, okay.
But I don't believe that is something so fundamental that makes Luther a non-Christian.
So for them, so no problem. So you don't need to believe in the New Testament.
No, don't put words in my mouth. We're talking again. I never said that.
No, but
that's what you just said. You do this all the time, Mohammed.
So you don't need to believe. No, you said this. You said it doesn't affect their salvation.
It doesn't.
So if not, hold on. Sorry, hold on. So let's make it fair. No,
that's exactly his argument.
No.
He's building a straw man.
Always create criteria.
No, I'm happy.
We don't believe.
Okay, and I'm asking you. It's a question. I'm asking. You're saying that if you don't believe, if someone does not believe, like 27 books of the New Testament, for example, looks at the book of Revelation, and they say that this stuff is not from God, I don't believe it's from God. Jesus doing this and that, that's fine.
Right, so let me ask you this question. This will answer your question.
Yeah.
It will answer your question.
Yeah.
Did the first followers of Jesus have a New Testament?
No, obviously not.
Pardon?
Obviously not.
Did they?
Which ones?
Did the first followers of Jesus have a New Testament?
Which ones?
The very first.
They wouldn't have.
The very first.
The ones that exist in
the very first, Muhammad. I'm speaking to you in plain English.
Disciples.
Did they have a New Testament?
No.
So they believed without a book, meaning you can believe without the book.
Okay, fine.
Thank you. Case closed. Case closed.
No, it's not. It was a question. That's fine. So you're saying that you don't need to believe in the New Testament in its entirety to be a Christian?
I'm saying that you need to believe the good news, the gospel. And what is the gospel? That Christ died, that Christ was risen, that Christ will come again.
Okay, but hold on.
This is the kerygma.
Guys, sorry.
And the New Testament testifies to that belief. Yes, that is one of the principles.
No, hold on.
That's one of the principles.
I'm happy now. I'm happy. I've got what
in deciding canon.
I've got what I think I want. Right? You're saying that of the 27 books, where you say that when Athanasius came to his conclusion of 27 books, it's possible and allowable for some Christian to say, for example, I take the Apocrypha, or I take Saint Thomas's books as actually what Jesus said.
No, what Athanasius was doing was saying that in his diocese, in his autonomous authority, these are the books that I want read in my churches. These are the books that you will teach from at the pulpit. That's what he was talking about.
I know, but either way, sorry, I was asking.
He doesn't say you can't read the Shepherd of Hermes.
I'm asking you a question, yeah? My question is it conceivable that a Christian can be a Christian and not, for example, and believe that the Gospel of Thomas should be in the Bible, whereas, for example, Revelation shouldn't be?
So let me deal with that question directly.
Yes.
If someone genuinely believes the gospel that we Christians preach, if they believe that, for example, Revelation shouldn't be in the Bible,
yes,
but the Gospel of Thomas should be, they can still be saved even though they are in error.
For you to believe in parts of the New Testament and not all of the New Testament and still be eligible for salvation. That is what you said, because we said what gave Athanasius, what gave him the right to choose what books would be in the New Testament. You agree that, okay, that it became known and so on, but if you don't agree with the 27 books, it doesn't necessarily disqualify you from salvation and from being a Christian. What I'm saying is, the question of what should be acceptable and what shouldn't be acceptable should be to the good judgment of people who look into the scripture and do their historical research, and through rationalization also decide that certain things are impossible and therefore reject aspects of that scripture. If you allow some parts of the scripture to be taken out, then it should be to the good discretion of each individual reader to decide what those parts would be. It's not good enough to say to someone, okay, you don't need to have all 27 books of the New Testament, you don't need to believe in this New Testament, but you have to believe in these parts. Who gave you the authority? Who gave you the authority? Who gave you the authority? So somebody doesn't apply.
Can I reply?
So
this is my summary. This is my summary. So my summary is this. Muhammad has already accepted that it is quite proper to choose your canon based upon your belief system, which is what he admitted when we talked about the Shia Sunni hadith. Now, it follows, therefore, that as Christians, we are also quite improper to do the same. The salvation gospel that was taught by the first apostles was not written down and then handed out like a tract. It was preached. Someone can be saved by knowing the good news about Jesus and believing on it without ever having a New Testament in their hand.
So Quran is enough.
Notice.
So my message to the Christians is, guys, look within. Whether you look from a preservation perspective, a textual perspective, a rational perspective, or even an intuitive perspective, the answer is always going to be one. That you believe in one God. You cannot bring yourself to believe in 3 in 1 and 1 in 3. You don't accept the authority of the entire New Testament. It makes perfect sense. It made perfect sense for there to have been a renewal of the faith through another prophet, one that we believe is predicted in the New Testament and the Old Testament, who came in the form of the Prophet Muhammad in the Arabian Peninsula in the 7th century. I have to pray before Maghrib comes in.
You're Muslim.